Martin, thanks for coming on the Sales and Sports podcast. Great to finally meet you face to face in person. How are you? And tell us about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, good chat. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. So I'm an SDR at AlphaSense. My name's Martin Kornacki. And I guess we'll get into it, but I switched careers pretty late in life, I guess you could say, for an SDR. But yeah, thanks to a lot of the support I got from you. So yeah, really happy to be on here and share some of my experiences.
Amazing. And for the listeners, a lot of them are people in traditional 9-to-5s. They might be thinking about the tech industry or a career in the digital economy. For some people, they think it's out of touch or they might be too late. So yeah, would love to know about your journey. Tell us about your life before Entr Tech. What were you doing work-wise? How did you fall into that sort of career path? And what made you think about transitioning into tech sales?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just start by saying that it's never too late to do anything. So that shouldn't be a limiting factor for anybody really looking to change career. I've changed career twice or maybe 3 times even in my life. So I should never really feel like that's an obstacle. So that never really felt like an obstacle to me. Mm-hmm. But I also realized there's going to be a fair bit of work involved in that. So sort of probably the most relevant kind of start to my story is around my 30s. I retrained for the first time and became a journalist. And over the next sort of 15 years or so, worked in, I guess, for the sake of sort of simplicity, I guess business journalism, with a focus in the insurance sector.
Yep.
And over time, I worked more in, I guess, again, just to simplify it, and I guess you'd call it the fintech sector, in journalism. And as part of that, my role kind of changed as well. The publishing industry changed over that time as well, so it became quite a bit more commercially focused.
Yep.
And my role became more commercially focused as well. So I worked alongside sales teams, never in a like a role where I'd be originating deals or anything like that, but in a kind of subject matter expert, they would maybe bring along to some of the meetings, would support some of the sales team, but never saw the sales process through end to end, but definitely had more of a commercial focus in my role. So really over a period of many years, I was already kind of thinking about the idea of a more commercial role. And
sure.
I actually moved into a more commercial role in publishing, so more of like a brand editor publishing role, but never, again, as I say, never really tied so directly to what I put in directly translates into how I'm remunerated ultimately.
Yeah.
But it was always in the back of my head. And then just as sort of things changed in the industry I was in my last job, I was looking for something new, essentially. And I didn't want to go back into journalism again. And I thought, well, this is really like the right time, the right opportunity. And yes, it was always looking to really sell a high value product in tech sales. That's really what interested me anyway.
Yeah.
So that's really where I started looking at the industry more seriously. And originally, my plan was really just, in my head, I was like, okay, I'm gonna send out 1,000 applications and just like that's maybe what it's gonna take.
Attack it.
I'm just gonna do that. And then I spoke to a guy who was like a head of sales in one of my previous companies, and he actually mentioned Entr Tech.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he was the guy who said someone had this on their CV once. Like I've heard of them. I think it was when you guys were actually in your startup phase.
Interesting.
So maybe somebody came right through one of your early cohorts, and he'd just seen that, and he said, this looked like something that you might want to check out. Like really just, it was that lightweight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I looked into it, and it just seemed like, because I'd retrained in things before, I really saw the value in that. So I figured, it makes a lot of sense for me to like have something that's showing my conviction in changing career. I think you need something for your story. Yeah. If you're just sort of saying, here's my personal story, I used to work alongside commercial teams, people are going to sort of say, but what have you really done about it?
Sure.
So and that's really where we got to sort of the end to you. Yeah, exactly, Jack. Yeah. And and then started applying for jobs at the end of that, really. And
love it. Yeah, I can definitely resonate with what you're saying, because I think a lot of, even when I was hiring in this space, you get a lot of people that sort of wake up out of bed one morning and think, I want to change careers, but actually tech firms love people that are coachable, can show they've put action into getting to where they want to get to. And I say to everyone, absolutely, if you want to break into tech, go for it. But if you do want to have training and a rigorous process to get in and have the network, obviously Entr Tech is a resource, people can use. And I remember you really strike me as a memorable student because you came onto the call and you'd done all your research and you'd be like, Jack, I know this, this, and this. And you were almost telling me what was going to happen in terms of the program. I believe you're in, was it Mexico or you're in South America or somewhere?
Yeah, right.
And you're like, Jack, I'm keen, I'm traveling at the moment, but when I come back, I'm going to come on. I was like, okay, cool. You've got, I guess conviction was the main thing I felt from you, which I knew you'd be a really strong, student to do well in the industry. But yeah, remind me, where were you traveling? Was it?
Yeah, I was living out in South America. So yeah, it could well have been Mexico or Colombia, possibly. Yeah, Colombia. Yeah. So I was living out in Colombia for a while at that point as well. I wanted to come back to the UK and like settle back down properly here. And yeah, to be honest with you, also go back to more of a 9-to-5 structure as well. So,
sure.
That's just one of the many things that kind of like drove me down that route. But I appreciate you saying that's funny you saying that, because thinking back on it, I did sort of just do all my own research, and then I was like, okay, Jack, like this is what I know.
Yeah.
And like obviously it was just like this kind of like grab bag of like sales ideas, right? That you're probably like, okay, he's looked at he's watched some YouTube videos.
Yeah, you're pretty advanced in your knowledge.
But it was pretty like all over the place, and like that was made such a difference when I doing the Entr Tech course, just giving me like a really clear-eyed picture of like what is actually expected from the job, what skills like I can translate quite directly, what skills I need to work on, what skills I'm going to like struggle with, I guess, to an extent, and need to really work on, and what bits do I feel like, I've got skills that are really going to translate here. So I've got this bit, I feel confident, but there's whole areas that are just missing from my skill set. And also like all the industry kind of insiders you guys had on, that was invaluable. So I looked back on the course actually, and thought that I'd been so naive in my like original plan. So it's fortuitous that got that recommendation really.
Amazing. And how did you find the interview process getting into the industry? Because for a lot of people it's so raw and so new, but for you it seemed pretty seamless. And I think you've landed, obviously a company I know well, AlphaSense, used to work there, but I think you've landed in a great position. I know they're a great company, but from the work you were doing in the city before, it obviously translated well from insurance and I guess the financial side of things. But how was that initial process of being in the interviews? Did you feel confident going in? And talk me through that interview process, because I know it is quite rigorous with certain companies.
Yeah, I do know that's an area that a lot of people, like I see it online, kind of that's an area where people like have a lot of anxiety around, and I completely get that. I guess maybe because I've worked with people previously as a journalist in sort of senior positions, that there was less sort of anxiety around the seniority of people I was speaking with, and maybe also just an understanding a bit more of what a business is looking for when it recruits. So kind of understanding what, hopefully in the story that I tell in the interview, is going to be really directly relevant for the people interviewing me. So not saying what they want to hear and making stuff up, but understanding what questions I actually need to answer for them, and just going into that really trying to be proactive, and in those conversations try and just answer those questions in advance. Bring things up to them, and then give them an opportunity, and like maybe even suggest areas they might want to ask me further on. Maybe I can give you some examples on this or something like that. And obviously you can't prepare for all the questions you're going to be asked, but I really, really wanted the job at AlphaSense, and because I've got a background that's quite sort of research focused anyway, I did loads of research on the company. Felt after coming out of Entr Tech, right, these are the qualities they're looking for in an SDR. Like really focusing on those. Focusing, I think, for career switchers, the thing I think where career switchers maybe go wrong is they haven't got a very clear story of why. Why are you getting into sales, and why are you choosing the company you're interviewing for. You've got to be absolutely rock solid on that. So, because you're already a bit of an unknown entity, you've got no track record, and sure, like some people might want a clean slate, but it's also like high risk for those companies, right?
Yeah.
So if you can say, I understand the SDR role, this is the preparation I've done for it, any areas that, okay, maybe I'm not unproven in,
Sure.
but I can show you where there's some transferable examples in what I've done before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like a mindset that will put me in good stead to deliver across the rest, and make that into a narrative that makes sense, a story that makes sense. I think that's really a good starting point. And then, for me, I knew about AlphaSense actually before, and then as I learned more about it, I was so keen on getting the job. To be honest with you, I find like research around companies interesting anyway.
Yeah.
So just did a lot of research and was able to just bring an understanding. Maybe not like, obviously I'm not going to understand the minutiae of any company, but
Sure.
showing you get what they do,
and
who
you
they're
care.
selling to, and you care.
You want the role, because a lot of people go to interviews and don't tell the interviewer that they want the role, or they don't show that they want it that much, and almost you've got to run it like a sales process in qualifying them as much as they're qualifying you, researching the interviewer, researching the company heavily. So you're almost doing the SDR or account executive role before you're in seat, which is super important. And tell me about starting there. We were talking before we started about the culture. I know the culture is great, sort of very high, high intensity, very dynamic, work hard, play hard, but it is a really feedback rich culture, which sounds quite woo woo, but it does make a big difference when you're in somewhere where you can learn and develop. And I was one of the first hires in Europe scaling the go-to-market teams. I'm sure it's changed a lot. I think there was maybe 5 in the offices when I was in London, and now there's probably 200.
Yeah, at least.
But how's it been onboarding and getting up to speed? Have you done any travel, and what's that been like?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, when I interviewed and I had a sense of the company, but obviously had not worked there, and I had a sense of what the SDR industry can be like. I thought it was going to be very different from what it was like. So I thought it was going to be a lot more dog eat dog. I thought it was going to be a lot more of an adversarial environment. I thought, the relationship with your AE and the other SDR team was not going to be particularly collaborative. So I was prepared for, I'm on my own here, sink or swim, going to get my head down and just work this out myself. And then, I can't remember the onboarding, but 2-3 weeks, I think. And the onboarding I had was amazing. Shout out to Toby from the team there. And that just immediately just put me in like a different frame of mind. And I was onboarding with people who were joining with me, quite a small cohort, a lot of information, you almost impossible to take in, right?
Sure.
But it just immerses you in the culture.
For sure.
You just feel really immersed immediately in the company, the product, sales techniques that they use, understanding the systems, best practices. And it is a US company, right? So it is a US culture, which is very much high performing, smart people, very mission focused. So, there's not a lot of sort of treading water.
Passengers, yeah.
Yeah, totally. But that's great, because actually that's the worst thing when you're at a company and people around you are just, not motivated or just not very good at their job. People around me are constantly challenging my way of thinking, but in a really collaborative way. I learn from everyone on the team. There's always a two-way dialogue. My management team have been super supportive. I think they just really get what people are going through when they're starting as SDRs. Yeah. So, and then on top of that, I'm actually in the high growth segment. So you're really kind of almost to an extent finding new use cases.
Okay.
I wouldn't, not entirely, but to an extent you are. So, you're really targeting verticals and areas of the sector that haven't been really ploughed yet. You know?
So like life sciences and consulting was new when I was there. So I'm guessing there's so many use cases like M&A. They would keep coming up with different strategies, which is pretty cool to work in a company where it constantly evolves in terms of the ICP.
Definitely. And then you've got this kind of like overarching US umbrella, right? So that is for people from a sort of UK workplace culture, it's very very different, right?
It is.
And like I'll be honest, at first you sort of sit there a bit like wide-eyed because it's full on,
Yeah.
right? And our CRO is like a real like iconic figure in the company, right? And a real presence. But the kind of culture and the energy that he has feeds into the rest of the
100%.
organization, right?
Transmits down,
Yeah, that's basically the kind of blueprint for how like the rest of the organization behaves essentially. And like the level of energy is through the roof. We get constant like catch ups with the US team, and actually after a while you actually like really appreciate it. It's actually very genuine, the culture, because as a Brit you sort of can't believe sometimes some of these US cultures that they feel that genuine, but actually having been inside it now for like 6-7 months, they're genuinely just ultra mission led, hardworking, smart people who are looking to essentially grow that business into, it's been rumored into the IPO phase now, right? So, valued at like 4 billion plus, right? So growth year on year. So it's a really good time to be there, but the culture is like fast moving.
Yeah.
And then we all go out to the US. And that was like the second culture shock. So we went out to Vegas in February, and then that's nice. Like you think the UK sales org is, I don't know, whatever, however many hundreds of people. The US sales org is like 3, 4, 5 times the size, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just basically like taking this whole hotel on the strip, right? Yeah. And then it's just very intense 4 or 5 days of updates, panels, learning, networking.
Networking is big.
Yeah, it's like you think you're going to be getting away to Vegas for a bit of fun, but you're basically like, it's more work than you
get back to the hotel room and you're showering and you're back out again for supper.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's people, there's a lot of people there who, they're not looking for the nightlife. Actually, they're seeing this as it's a very, again, that very American thing. They're seeing the opportunity in everything, right? So it's the opportunity to network, to learn, to get in front of senior leadership. But really, really great experience so far.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And how have you found sort of the targets? When I was there, it was 50 calls a day, and it was a lot of work on LinkedIn, but the phone was pretty heavy. And I think it was Sandler, MedPick, sort of playbook based. What is their sales methodologies, and what are sort of the metrics day to day? What are you working with?
Yeah, so seems kind of broadly similar to where you are at. We're measured primarily on pipeline, close one, and and then sort of activity metrics. Are a sort of indicator within that. Obviously, people have different approaches to achieving really the kind of like headline numbers they need to get to, but at a very basic level. For me personally, the best channel for me is the phone.
Yeah.
So that's just what I lean into. I think a big part of the SDR role is like finding where your strength lies, and then just scaling that as quickly as possible to, it is a numbers game, and you just need to know where to focus to maximize your numbers. So, there are people in the team. There's one guy on the team who gets all his wins on LinkedIn. It's unbelievable.
Really?
And, people have tried to recreate his system. Again, he's happy to share it with people, but there's always, everyone does everything slightly differently. And it's the little nuances that make it really work. You can always learn from someone else, but it's very difficult to just take exactly what they're doing and copying it. You need to always make it authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
Especially on the phone. It's got to sound like you're saying it, not someone else. You don't want to sound scripted.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, the phone, just in a sort of my day-to-day breakdown would be, trying to hit that 50 calls a day. I noticed before I joined, a lot of people were talking about the SDR role in terms of like the call volume, like this is the thing that's the hardest thing to do. I don't think that's the hardest part of the job at all. I mean, if you've got decent software supporting you in a company, which you should have, that gets you numbers, you learn how to prospect. It's not hard to make 50 calls a day. It's hard to make 50 effective calls a day where you're connecting with the right people and turning those into booked meetings. That's much more the challenge. As well, I would say something that I had no idea about before I started as an SDR, and I started learning at Entr Tech, but I knew that was going to be a weak area for me, was the prospecting side of it. As far as I can tell now, and again, not really, I'm only 7 months in the job, so I don't want to give people advice, but to me, prospecting is the key. I mean, really, I think if you're amazing at prospecting, you can pretty much, the rest will just come.
Yeah.
Like a basic script that is just functional, hit the calls, call in the right prospects, that will get you meetings, especially if you've got a good product. That's, I would say, for people looking for the SDR role. For me, it was really important that I believed in the product.
Yeah.
I really believe in AlphaSense as a market leading AI platform, essentially. I think it's in the right place at the right time. And so it's easy for me to on calls not feel like I'm, selling someone something they don't want.
Yeah,
I know
pushing something.
I know I'm calling the right people.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, it might not be the right time for them to buy right now.
Yeah.
But it's still worth a conversation.
For sure.
So yeah.
Absolutely. And do you use any AI at the moment in terms of outreach and prospecting? Because that's quite a hot topic at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, every day. So we've got enterprise Gemini licenses, and then we've got something coming up as well with another big provider. But I mean, most platforms now have it built in. So for people who use Gong, that records calls, which you'll see with your AEs.
Yeah.
That's got AI built into it. And Lusher's got AI built into it for people who are using Lusher, and I connect that to my ChatGPT as well. I've been using that a little bit more for prospecting now, trying to get a workflow that works. That's really the bottleneck for me, is prospecting. Like if I could prospect faster, I could just run through lists quicker, run through names quicker, have a constant pipeline of prospects going. And then I use it just day to day, real quick. What does this person do?
Yeah.
What are his responsibilities?
Yeah.
Have a list of everyone I'm going to call. I've got the AI, not to craft me these sort of AI sales messages. There's people who that really works for. It's amazing what they can do. Doesn't work for me. I think people are starting to become quite in tune to when they get their receiving something that's AI, right? Sure. So for me, it's just like real quick. Tell me what, let me just really understand day-to-day responsibilities, something that I can quickly draw on. But yeah, it's such an accelerator.
Interesting. Do you use AlphaSense tool to prospect? Or
I should have really given a plug, right? Yeah. Super powerful. Super powerful for us. It's linked into our company data. I get a daily brief out of AlphaSense that tells me all the movements within my clients, actually focusing down to how these are trigger points. Why certain things matter. So I can see not only where opportunities lie, but maybe have more informed conversations as well.
Exactly.
I use it across my entire book of business. I use it to analyze Gong calls my AE has had across accounts, across personas.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, should have given a plug.
No, because the product's probably must have gone up leaps and bounds.
I'm sort of kind of nervous about how much I can say.
But since I was there, I used to use it a little bit for like seeing in the finance space, what M&A deals have gone down, and I used to obviously plug in different sources. So obviously now with AI and the way the product, I'm assuming, is developed, must be so many use cases.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a whole separate login, AlphaSense for revenue.
Oh, nice.
And that links into our revenue backend essentially.
Yeah.
And then you're just able to use AlphaSense across all the data from the revenue org. It's just like a accelerant basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I guess the benefits of working at AlphaSense in Europe at the time was it was probably the most, the highest paid SDR role in London at the time. And those SDRs making, pretty much close to six figures. Is that still the case? And what are like the top performers as SDRs making, but also as account executives? Like I saw some big, multi 7-figure deals as AE being closed. What is the space in terms of earning potential at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it looked like, as you say, one of the better paying roles. And, I feel, particularly just before I sort of talk about that the incentives seem, the way it's structured, again, a common complaint was around, commission structures, relationships with AE, how accounts are divvied up across SDRs. Right from the start, to me, it looks like the incentives are really, really well aligned across AlphaSense in terms of how the remuneration works. So uncapped commission. On top of that, accelerators as you cross over your quota targets, which I think is super incentivizing. So, let's say you're coming to the end of a good month, you've hit your quota for meetings. There's incentive for you to actually put your foot on the gas.
Yeah.
Right. You're actually trying to get to that figure quicker. Right. And the accelerator makes a huge difference. And then pipeline, you get a percentage of the close on any deals as well that you've sourced as well, which can be, closed. My AE closed. It was a 6-figure deal essentially. Six figure. Yeah, six figure, I guess, from that point of view, right?
Yeah.
Deal. And that certainly, contributed a fair bit to my commission. In terms of SDRs themselves earning 6 figures, there's a guy on my team at the moment who, we're learning from him. The guy has an unbelievable work ethic, so focused, just sort of like a game changer for the team, really, just to be around him. And just to give you a sense of it, he's more than double. I think he could get close to double his meeting target this quarter, right? So the basis, you can earn a lot of money if you put the work in.
Wow, amazing. And I guess what's next for you in terms of your career? Because I know progression internally is obviously a pretty big thing for a lot of companies. What is your goal? Do you have goals set out, or are you seeing how things go?
No, for me, definitely. And from the start, knew I wanted to be an AE. So, and sort of said that in the interview as well. They look for people at AlphaSense. Again, something that really attracted me to it. They promote internally. It sort of totally makes sense when you've actually been there. The kind of training throughout the role is pushing you into this pathway towards an AE. You're learning all those skills. So the progression sort of runway seems really, really clear, that you know what you need to do, you know what you need to learn. And 100% looking to get into an AE role as soon as I'm ready, really.
Great stuff. And just to wrap it up, what advice would you give to someone thinking about tech sales, breaking in?
Just from some of the people that I've spoken to who've tried to get into it and seeing maybe where I feel they've been lacking is you need a bit more confidence in yourself. There's loads of SDRs, and I'm a fair bit older for the industry, right? But I imagine a lot of people that are getting into it, they're people the same age as you. They haven't got some kind of superpowers. You could be just as good at this job as them. You just need to really believe in yourself, have the confidence. Don't get overwhelmed by thinking you've got imposter syndrome, talking to C-suites. You're having a business conversation. Make sure you've got a really clear story about why you want the job you're going for. Don't just create a generic pitch and just spray and pray. Like, you have to really, it's work. You do need to research these companies. You're going to be doing a lot of research. You're going to be writing a lot of cover letters. You're going to be getting loads of rejections. But to be quite honest with you, if that is, you're basically doing the SDR job.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you really hate that bit, this isn't going to be for you.
Yeah, and is the juice worth the squeeze? Are you happy where you are right now? Like when we first had the conversation, probably 10 months ago, whenever it was, like if you could see yourself now, how it's all unveiled, out of 10, where would you be? And was it worth the effort? Because it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because I'm coming from a different background, but yeah, for me, it exceeded my expectations. Really, company culture, room for progression, ability to earn. Yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic move.
Awesome. Martin, thanks for coming on, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jack.
Great stuff.